everyone, this is Knox Henderson, Investor Relations for Great Bear Resources. It's a fairly sunny day here in Vancouver, and with me is Chris Taylor, founder, president, and CEO of Great Bear. Today we're kicking off a series of informal videos to keep everybody up to speed in this very unique situation that we find ourselves in. So, Chris, first off, maybe share with everybody how people can connect with Great Bear and how we're going to connect with people.
Thanks for the intro, Knox. I mean, you're doing a great job. I mean, you're not Steve Darling, but I will say that that's pretty good handoff. So I would say what we're going to do is keep in regular contact like we usually do. There'll be regular news releases and news flow. We'll continue to provide technical updates as we get information, we get results that come in, but we'll continue shooting videos like this. I think it's a good opportunity. Pretty much everybody in Canada is sitting in their house right now. We're all in the same situation. In that sense, we're all in this together. And if we continue to take investor questions like this, people can reach out to you, investor relations at greatbearresources.ca. Any questions that you have, we'll direct to Knox that way, or call one of our telephone numbers. You could probably provide those at the end of the video, and give Knox any questions that you want me to answer, and we'll be able to go through things in that format on a regular basis.
Great, and it's actually IR at greatbearresources.ca, just so you know. And we'll have, I see you have your eye on everybody there in the background. That's kind of a little bit creepy there, Chris. I don't know what that's all about, but.
Well, that's MC Escher is one of my favorite graphic artists from the early 20th century. So there's that eye, which always caught my eye, so to speak. Sorry, I'm bad humor. But he also does those sketches where you see people that walk up or down an infinite staircase, that kind of stuff. So those are also pretty interesting as well. I got that print about 20 years ago, and it's been keeping its eye on me this entire time.
Okay, so with that, I've been getting a lot of questions for shareholders, as you can imagine, and some emerging themes are popping up. So maybe we'll just run through them. The obvious one is with this whole COVID virus going on, what's Great Bear doing to kind of maintain activity, keep everybody safe? How's it going out there?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we put some information out on that last week, but this week was actually quite exciting on that front, because early in the week, the Ontario government, and obviously our Dixie project is located in the Red Lake District of Ontario, announced that they were going to shut down all non-essential services. So we thought initially that would encompass mineral exploration and mining, that sort of stuff. In the end, it does not. So I think this is a reflection that the Ontario government has put restrictions in place. These are going to affect people, especially profoundly in urban centers. So I think the idea was basically to keep the large populations from mixing extensively in places like Toronto, Ottawa, other large cities. But what we're seeing is that mineral exploration, mineral production, these have been deemed essential services. And this meant, like, on Monday when we saw the news go out, there was a lot of scrambling on the technical team on our side to figure out what this would entail for the company. And, today is Wednesday, but yesterday I was on phone calls. I had a discussion with Chief Doug Riffle. He's chief of the Wabascang First Nation group, which is the closest group to our project. Terry Bursey was in discussions with the mayor, council, SAO in Red Lake, directly with the SAO, and I believe they had a council meeting last night. So basically, the balance was trying to keep. Effectively, there's starting to be a lot of fear, and it doesn't matter if you're, my community in North Vancouver, or you're on the Wabascang First Nation, or you're a resident of Red Lake, Ontario. It doesn't matter where you are right now. Everybody has the same concerns that, number one, well, we all know that if you go on EI is pretty much doesn't amount to a hill of beans when it stacks up against an average person's expenses. So all of us had the same motivation, is like, well, how do we keep people safe and working and maximize their income during a time of extreme economic uncertainty? And I think, today is Wednesday. Thursday is going to be the unemployment numbers announced in the US, for instance. I think that's going to be the largest unemployment number release in that country's history, which is really something to get your head around. So we and other people that we're working with, we want to keep people working as much as possible. That means we have to jump through a lot of hoops, like we were announcing in our news release last week with Great Bear. We had to go with exclusively Red Lake-based staff, and that basically cuts down the risk of bringing outside people and infections into the Red Lake community. And that's, that's something that we all need to take really seriously,
So that's certainly,
especially.
we're benefiting from having a local labor pool in Red Lake. So we don't have to fly a lot of people in. There's certainly lots of people that are gainfully employed. So that's actually a very good thing. And the drills are turning right now, and so they continue to drill. And so with that in mind, we put out our last news release February 9th. So I'm getting a lot of calls. When's the next news release? When's the next news release? What's going on? So maybe since February 9th, share with everybody what's the status, when they might expect another news release, that kind of thing.
Well, to address that question, I mean, there's a few things, and I don't think people really know this because I answer this question a lot myself. So in the situation where you have a public company like Great Bear, it doesn't matter if you're Great Bear, you're Agnico Eagle, you're Barrick, whatever, you're a publicly traded company, you have an obligation to disclose news to the public if you have a material change. If something to do with your operations or financial situation or anything changes and that impacts the value of the company, you've got to disclose it. You can't sit on information like that. In a situation like ours, what we've been really concerned with recently is just whether we would get the announcement out of the Ontario government recently about the non-essential services being shut down. If that had entailed Great Bear, and it does not, then it would be a while until we could get more meters of drill core drilled and more results out. So we always balance off. We need to have results that are being accumulated, evaluated specifically, and analyzed and ready to go. So effectively, one of the good things is since the last news release, we've drilled a lot of meters, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's over 10,000 meters of drill core, and that stuff is all in various stages of processing through the assay labs. And we mentioned previously, like when we get enough drill holes on a section, then we put out the news together. So you don't want one drill hole per section. I mean, this is a massive target. The LP fault target is, it's got to be one of the biggest zones in Canada from what we're seeing in terms of comparables, its physical footprint. So, we want to make sure when we're releasing information that it's representative of the different areas that we're drilling.
Okay, so point taken, but the primary focus is still on that 5 kilometers that we've identified to start in the LP fault. That's where the bulk of the drilling is taking place. We're really not drilling the hinge and limb zone at this point.
Well, I always get the question, and this has been a couple of times. I mean, people know that we hit lots of good high-grade gold results in the hinge and limb, but at some point, I don't know exactly when this occurred, but sometime in the fall, people began to get the idea that the LP fault was a lower grade gold target. This is definitely not the case. You see, and we put the data up on our website, you can look at tables of results from the LP, and you can see that there's high grade gold in all of the areas along the fault that we've drilled so far. So if you wanted to know where is the most concentration, the biggest volumetric concentration of high grade gold on the Dixie property, it's the LP fault, not the hinge and the limb. So especially right now, because it's captured so much attention, people want to see the raw scale of it and especially the continuity of the gold grades and distribution along the LP. And that's what we're drilling to show people right now. You can't do it with individual drill holes. You have to do it with fences of drill holes that give you meaningful continuity, hole to hole to hole, and section to section to section across kilometers of that target. That just takes a while to drill, right?
Yeah, and the continuity is key, and obviously the analysts really like that. Have you been talking to a lot of the analysts that are covering Great Bear, particularly, Canaccord and PI? I know that they're formally following us, and can people expect some reports out of those groups shortly, or?
Well, they provide regular updates. I think they're just waiting for our next technical news release, as are we. I'm very much looking forward to that. But I think what you're going to see too is based on the meetings that I had, there will be more coverage emerging on Great Bear over time, mainly because it is a story that's attracted a lot of attention. And finally, we have really, it's an information density. That density of information, the spacing and drilling, what have you, is getting to be dense enough that people are beginning to do the back of the envelope math on the LP fault system, and they're realizing that it has the potential to be very significant. So that's going to attract more coverage over time as well. It's just right now, I believe, with the markets being in relative turmoil, there would have probably already been additional reports out on the company already, but people are scrambling with the names that they already cover just to give meaningful updates given the context of the market. And I know that we're in the queue with some other groups as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of coverage, getting included in the GDXJ by Van Eck is very exciting. Obviously, we've seen a lot of market activity around that. So maybe explain to everybody what's that all about with the GDXJ and Van Eck's fund.
Well, effectively, Van Eck runs a fund which is based on a number of different junior gold producers and larger gold explorers. So these wouldn't be companies that just stake claims beside something. They would have to have a significant market cap. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but it is hundreds of millions of dollars US in terms of market capitalization. They have to have a certain trading volume that they adhere to, and there has to be prospects for significant growth with those companies. So we've had a number of meetings with Joe Foster at Van Eck, and he's been following the story. And so the most recent one, I think, was about a month ago in New York City. So we were happy to see that we were included in the JDXJ index. And that means that that group and a number of others that are effectively copycats on that group need to accumulate positions in proportion to the holdings within that fund. And effectively, that meant that we saw quite a bit of buying into Great Bear on the back of that addition. And generally, those companies outperform others in the space. Like if you were to take a random assortment of 1,000 TSXV listed junior mining companies, and you looked at their performance versus the JDXJ would generally outperform, because these are picked based on success and prospects for future success. So it was nice for Great Bear to be included in that. I think as we grow, you'll see inclusion in different indices over time, different funds over time, and this was a good early step for us as well.
Yeah, it's certainly a huge vote of confidence. The other questions I'm constantly getting about is about the spinoff, the royalty spinoff, the date, how that's going to work. A lot of questions from the U.S. on the tax implications, which I doubt you could get into all the gory details on that, but maybe you could give an overview for everyone so they can know what to expect.
I think we're going to have some news on that front in the near future, given we published some timelines that indicated that you would be seeing news around now towards the end of March, and we are on track for that news distribution. So I would pay attention to the news flow out of Great Bear over the next number of days, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of the questions answered. But the bottom line is that the spinout is proceeding as planned. And this is important for us because, again, we want to make sure that we're benefiting Great Bear shareholders with the benefit of that future royalty. And despite the coronavirus situation and market volatility, all those things, as I've said before, the coronavirus has not removed one scrap of gold from the ground at Dixie. And every day that goes by, we are drilling more on this gold discovery, this series of gold discoveries, especially the LP fault now. And that means that the situation, the story is improving on a day-to-day, month-to-month, or week-to-week, month-to-month basis. The more data that we see, the more we like it. And that means that we're even more convinced that this is something that is going to benefit our shareholders over the long term. So all the royalty spinout stuff is completely on track, and there'll be news on that in the near future.
Okay, thanks for that, Chris. And just a reminder to everybody, if you want some more information, just email ir@greatbearresources.ca, or you could call me directly at 604-646-8362. Thank you very much and have a great day.